I still remember the sound her voice made that night. Not the words, not yet, just the sound, soft, detached. Like she was reading someone else's script, not confessing to the man she'd built 12 years of life with. We were sitting at the dining table, the same one we bought from that small furniture shop near the pier. The wood had faded around the edges. We used to laugh about how time leaves its fingerprints on everything, even furniture. That night, though, the laughter was gone. There was only silence, and her eyes. "Daniel," she said finally, looking at her wine glass, "I need to tell you something." My first thought was that she was sick, or maybe that she'd lost her job again. The tone, that mix of guilt and exhaustion, it didn't sound like anything else. I waited, then she said it. "I've always belonged to my ex, I just pretended to care." The world didn't explode, it didn't shatter or scream, it just stopped for a second. Even the sound of the city outside, the rain, the tires on asphalt, the faint hum of someone's late-night music faded. All I could hear was my heartbeat, uneven and lost. I stared at her. She didn't look cruel. She didn't look triumphant. She just looked done, like she'd reached the end of a story she never wanted to read in the first place. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. "Because I can't keep living like this," she whispered. He reached out, and when I saw his name, I realized I never stopped loving him. His name, that name I hadn't heard in over a decade. Ethan, the man she dated in college. The one who broke her heart so badly she almost didn't trust love again. Or at least that's how she used to describe him. I had built my entire marriage on that story, on being the man who helped her heal. And now she was telling me she'd only been pretending. She looked up. Her eyes were glossy, but no tears fell. "I didn't mean to deceive you, Dan. I really thought I'd moved on. But when I saw him again, everything came back. Everything. Every memory, every scar, every moment of our life together, the trips, the arguments, the nights she fell asleep on my chest suddenly felt borrowed. Like I had been living someone else's dream. I tried to breathe. I couldn't. It felt like the air had turned heavy, like I was inhaling through glass. "Are you leaving me?" I finally asked. She hesitated. Her lips parted, then closed, then parted again. That hesitation, that single moment, was my answer. I leaned back in my chair, the wood creaking beneath me. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, thunder rolled across the sky like an echo of my heartbeat. "You know what hurts the most?" I said. "It's not that you loved someone else. It's that you pretended all this time." She flinched. "I did love you, Daniel, just differently." "Differently?" I repeated, the word tasting like metal. "You mean safely?" Her eyes filled with tears then. Real ones, and for a moment I almost wanted to comfort her, out of habit, I guess. 12 years of instinct doesn't die in a sentence, but I stayed still, because love built on pretending isn't love. It's mercy disguised as affection. "I'm sorry," she said again, her voice cracking. "I didn't plan for this to happen, he just showed up." I finished for her. "And suddenly you remembered who you really belonged to." Silence, only rain tapping against the glass now. It was like the sky was listening, too polite to interrupt. "I don't want to hurt you," she said. "You already did." She closed her eyes, a tear rolling down her cheek. Then she whispered something I'll never forget. "I think I need to go see him, just to know for sure." I let out a short laugh, not the kind you make when something's funny, the kind that escapes when disbelief becomes unbearable. "You're asking for my blessing to meet the man you've been dreaming about while lying next to me." She didn't answer. Her silence was the answer. That was when I realized this wasn't a sudden confession. It was a goodbye disguised as honesty. I stood up, my legs felt heavy. I walked past her into the hallway and stopped by the mirror. The man staring back looked older than I remembered, tired eyes, clenched jaw, half-broken expression. 12 years of loving someone who was never fully mine. Behind me, she whispered, "Dan, please say something." I turned to her. "I think you already said everything." She reached for me instinctively, almost desperately, but stopped halfway. Because she knew I wouldn't take her hand this time. I walked to the door, picked up my jacket, and said quietly, "If you go to him, don't come back pretending it meant nothing. Don't lie to me again." Her lips trembled. "I won't." Then I left. The door closed behind me with a sound I'll never forget, not loud, not dramatic, just final, like the soft click of something breaking inside. Outside, the rain had turned into a downpour. I stood there for a moment, staring at the streetlight flickering over the puddles, 12 years of love dissolving into the wet pavement. I didn't cry, not then, because heartbreak doesn't always come in tears. Sometimes it comes in silence, in the space between what's said and what's already gone. And in that silence, I realized something cruelly simple. You can give someone your whole heart. But if they never stopped belonging to someone else, you were only ever renting their love. That was the night my marriage ended, not with a fight, not with betrayal in action, but with 7 quiet words. "I've always belonged to my ex." I didn't see her the next morning, just her half of the closet empty, and a folded note on the kitchen counter beside her mug. "Please don't hate me, I need to know what's real." No signature. No explanation, just that sentence, sharp, selfish, and unfinished. It had rained all night. The house smelled like wet earth and old coffee. I sat at the table for an hour, maybe 2. I didn't cry, didn't move. Just listen to the silence she left behind. It'd wait, like the ghost of her voice was still hovering in the air, afraid to vanish completely. I didn't tell anyone, not at first. When people asked where she was, I said she was visiting family. I couldn't bring myself to say the truth out loud, because saying it meant accepting it, that 12 years of shared mornings, quiet jokes, and half-whispered apologies had collapsed into someone else's hands. The first time I saw proof of him was 3 days later. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She'd left it behind in the rush. I shouldn't have looked, but when you've been replaced, curiosity feels like survival. The message lit up the screen. Ethan, I can't believe we're really doing this. I missed you, Elle. Elle, that's what he used to call her back then. I used to think it was cute how nicknames could hold memories. Now it felt poisonous, like a ghost whispering through glass. I put the phone down, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. That was the moment I stopped hoping she'd change her mind. Because you don't message someone like that if you're unsure. You message them when your heart's already crossed the bridge. The days that followed blurred together, work, home, silence, repeat. The house felt like a museum, every object a relic of a love story no one believed anymore. Her sweater still hung over the chair, her scent lingered on the pillow. I couldn't bring myself to touch anything. It felt like disturbing the ashes of something sacred. One evening, my friend Noah came over. He'd known us since the beginning, back when we were still that perfect couple. "Man, you look wrecked," he said softly, sitting on the couch beside me. I forced a smile. Guess marriage isn't bulletproof after all. He looked around. "She's gone." I nodded. For a while he said nothing, just watched me with the kind of sympathy that hurts more than judgment. Then he muttered, "You didn't deserve that, Dan." I wanted to agree, but a small, poisonous part of me whispered maybe I did. Maybe I was too predictable, too patient, too safe. Maybe that's why she needed him, the chaos, the thrill, the nostalgia of youth. Love, after all, doesn't always die because of hate. Sometimes it dies because of familiarity. A week passed, then two, then a month. I started running at night. Not because I liked it, but because I needed to escape the echo of her laughter in the walls. I'd pass by the coffee shop we used to visit, the park where we had our first fight, the bookstore where she once cried because a poem reminded her of her mother. Now all those places looked smaller, like they'd belonged to someone else entirely. One night around 11, I saw them, by accident. I was jogging down the boulevard when a familiar laugh caught my attention. There she was, standing under the awning of a restaurant, her hair tucked behind her ear, that shy smile I used to wake up to, and next to her, Ethan. He looked exactly how I remembered from old photos, confident, charming, careless. He had that energy that made people feel like the world revolved around him. He touched her arm and she didn't pull away. In that moment I understood something cruel. She hadn't been lost. She'd been found, just not by me. I froze across the street, hidden under a flickering streetlight. It was raining again. Always raining when things fall apart, it seems. They laughed, leaned close, kissed, and I realized for her it wasn't betrayal, it was resurrection. She looked alive, and I looked like a ghost watching his own funeral. I walked home without finishing my run. My shoes squelched with every step, my chest felt hollow. That night I sat on the edge of our bed and whispered into the dark, "She's happy, Dan. Isn't that what you always wanted?" But the truth was simpler. I didn't want her happy. Not without me, not like that. The next morning, I packed a box of her things, photos, books, her favorite sweater, and left it by the door. I didn't text her, didn't call. I was done being the safe harbor she docked at between storms. Yet even as I said that to myself, I couldn't stop checking my phone. Every night I'd stare at the empty screen, waiting for her name to appear. Some part of me, the weak, hopeful part, believed she'd come back once the illusion wore off. It took 3 months for that part to finally die. 3 months of silence. 3 months of pretending I was fine while she posted pictures of beaches, brunches, and sunsets with him. Every photo looked like a lie painted in perfect light. But beneath the smiles, I started to notice something subtle, the fatigue in her eyes. The way her posts went from daily updates to scattered fragments. The captions grew shorter. The smiles thinner. And one night, while scrolling through her profile like an addict, I saw a comment she'd forgotten to delete, from Ethan. "You're not the same anymore, maybe we rushed this." I stared at that line until the screen dimmed. Something inside me, something I didn't even know was still alive, twitched. A strange, cold clarity. It hit me then. She had left to chase a version of love that never truly existed. And maybe, just maybe, the universe was about to show her what that kind of fantasy costs. I closed the phone and whispered to the dark, "Be careful what you run toward. Sometimes it burns brighter because it's already dying." That night, for the first time in months, I slept soundly. Because deep down I knew something was coming. I didn't know what, but I could feel it like the air before a storm. And somewhere out there in that same city rain, she was about to learn the difference between belonging and being chosen. It had been 6 months since she left. Half a year of quiet mornings, untouched coffee mugs, and silence that stopped feeling like peace. I had learned how to live around the absence, how to talk without expecting an echo, how to fall asleep without imagining the soft weight of her hand over my chest. I wasn't healed, not yet, but I was learning how to breathe again. And then one evening she knocked on my door. It was raining again, always raining when something ends. At first I thought I imagined it, the knock was so faint like hesitation had fingers. But then it came again, and when I opened the door there she was. Lena, her hair damp, makeup smudged, coat clinging to her shoulders. She looked nothing like the woman who'd walked out months ago with certainty in her eyes. She looked lost. Broken like a fire that had burned itself out. "Hi," she whispered, just that, and somehow that one word carried everything she couldn't say. I didn't speak, just stepped aside. She hesitated, then walked in slowly, like she was afraid the floor might remember the last time she crossed it. The air felt heavy again, but not like before. This time it was grief, not anger, filling the space. She stood in the living room, looking around. Her eyes lingered on the framed photo on the shelf, us on our 5th anniversary, laughing in the sunlight. "I thought you would have thrown that away," she said softly. "I tried," I replied. "But some things don't leave just because you tell them to." Her lips trembled. "I deserve that." I didn't answer. I was too busy trying to hold together the storm inside me, relief, pain, and something dangerously close to compassion. "Why are you here, Lena?" I asked finally. She took a breath and then another. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were red, her voice fragile. "Because he left me," she said. "Oisan he cheated." For a moment I just stared at her. It was like hearing thunder after lightning. You knew it was coming, but it still made you flinch. She tried to smile, but it broke halfway. "Guess karma doesn't miss." I didn't move, didn't offer comfort, because for once she didn't come for comfort, she came for truth. "What did you expect me to say?" I asked quietly. "That I'm sorry." She shook her head, tears falling now. "No, I just didn't know where else to go." That hit harder than it should have, not because it was flattering, but because it was honest. When everything fell apart, she came to the one person who still remembered who she used to be. She sat on the couch, trembling. "He told me I was too much," she whispered. "Too emotional, too demanding. He said he wanted the version of me I used to be, the carefree girl from college. But that girl doesn't exist anymore, Dan. I don't even know who I am now." For a long time, the only sound was the rain. It hit the windows in soft rhythms like a slow apology from the sky. "You loved him," I said. "I thought I did." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "But what I loved was the memory of who we were, not who he became, not who I am now." She looked up at me then, eyes glistening. "You were always the one who saw me for what I really was, and I threw that away." Her words hung in the air like smoke, impossible to hold, impossible to ignore. I sat down across from her. "Why now?" I asked. "Why come back after everything?" "Because I finally understand what you meant," she said softly. "About love not being about excitement or nostalgia, it's about staying, and I didn't stay, I ran. And now I see what I lost." Her voice cracked on the last word. Something inside me broke too, but it wasn't love. It was something quieter, older. The kind of ache that comes from realizing the wound is healing, but the scar will never fade. "Do you want me to forgive you?" I asked. She hesitated. "I don't deserve it." "That's not what I asked." Tears welled up again. "I want to be able to forgive myself, but I can't." "Not unless you do." I closed my eyes, trying to find the right words, but there were none. "Forgiveness isn't a sentence you speak, it's a grave you dig for the past." "Lena," I whispered, opening my eyes. "I don't hate you, I never did. But I can't be what I was to you before. You didn't just break something between us, you broke the version of me that would have taken you back without thinking." She covered her face and sobbed. The kind of sob that sounds like regret has a body. I let her cry, didn't move to touch her, didn't speak, just listened to the rain, to her breath, to the distance between us. When she finally looked up again, she whispered, "Please, just let me stay here tonight. I don't have anywhere else." I didn't answer right away, because I knew what she was really asking. Not for a place to sleep, but for a fragment of who we used to be. After what felt like forever, I nodded, "Just for tonight." She closed her eyes, relief breaking through the tears. "Thank you," she whispered. I watched her settle on the couch, wrapping herself in a blanket. The rain softened outside, fading into a mist. I stood by the window, staring at the reflection of two people who once promised forever, now strangers under the same roof. As I turned off the lights and walked toward my room, she said quietly, "Dan, do you ever think about what could have been?" I stopped at the doorway, my voice barely audible. "Every day. But I've learned that what could have been isn't the same as what should have been." She didn't reply, and I didn't look back, because sometimes mercy looks like distance. And that night, mercy was all I had left to give. I lay in bed, eyes open in the dark, listening to her breathing softly in the next room. And for the first time since she left, I felt peace, not because she was back, but because I knew I could let her go. Morning came softly. A pale light seeped through the curtains, gentle and uncertain, the kind of light that doesn't know whether to comfort or expose. I woke to silence again. But this silence felt different. It wasn't hollow anymore, it was calm. Like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for something unspoken to happen. I walked into the living room. She was still there, asleep on the couch, curled up beneath the blanket. Her hair spilled across the pillow. For a moment I just watched her. There was no anger left in me, just an ache that had lost its sharp edges like an old wound healed under the skin. I made coffee 2 cups out of habit. When she stirred and sat up, her eyes were swollen, voice groggy. "You still make it the same way," she whispered. "Some habits don't know when to quit," I said, handing her a cup. We sat in silence, the steam rising between us like a quiet truce. "I didn't sleep much," she murmured. "I know," I replied. The quiet stretched, soft and uncertain. Outside, a faint drizzle painted the glass in streaks of silver. The world looked clean, washed, like it was ready to begin again, even if we weren't. She took a deep breath. "I kept thinking last night about how it all went wrong, about the little things I stopped appreciating. The way I stopped seeing you." Her voice trembled. "You didn't deserve that." I didn't interrupt. Some confessions deserve silence more than sympathy. "I thought love had to feel like fireworks," she continued. "Like chaos, like gravity. But with you it was quiet, steady, safe, and I mistook that for emptiness. I was wrong." I looked at her, really looked. The woman sitting across from me wasn't the same Lena who'd left. The arrogance was gone. The glow of illusion had faded. She looked human again, fragile, flawed, real. "Maybe," I said softly, "we both stopped seeing what we had." She frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "I spent years trying to be enough for the version of you that was always chasing something else. I thought if I loved harder, you'd stop looking back. But love doesn't work that way, does it? You can't compete with ghosts." She bit her lip, tears welling again. "I wish I could undo it all." "Don't," I said gently. "If you undo it, you undo the lesson too." Her eyes met mine, searching for something, maybe forgiveness, maybe permission to feel less guilty. I gave her neither, only honesty. "I forgive you," I said finally. "Not because what you didn't matter, but because I don't want to carry it anymore." She exhaled, a trembling breath, half relief, half disbelief. "You really mean that?" "Yes," I said. "But forgiveness isn't the same as return." Her face fell, and for a moment I almost regretted saying it. But truth, when spoken kindly, still hurts. It just hurts cleanly. She nodded slowly, wiping her face. "I know. I just needed to hear it." We sat quietly again. The clock ticked. The rain eased into sunlight. When she stood, I didn't stop her. She looked around the room one last time, her fingers brushing the edge of the dining table, the same one where she confessed everything months ago. "This house feels different now," she said. "It's not the house," I replied. "It's us." She smiled faintly. "You sound like you're finally free." "Maybe I am." She hesitated near the door, eyes glistening. "Dan, if I ever—" I stopped her with a small shake of my head. "Don't. Some words are better left unspoken." A pause, then she nodded, whispered goodbye, and stepped out into the light. The door closed softly behind her, the same sound as before, but this time it didn't feel final. It felt complete. I stood there for a moment, breathing in the silence. Then I walked to the window and watched her walk down the street, umbrella open, fading into the crowd. The rain had stopped, but the ground still glistened, like the world had cried and was ready to move on. I sipped my coffee, now cold, and whispered to myself, "She never really belonged to me, but maybe she helped me find the part of myself that does." For a long time I stood there, not grieving, not angry, not even nostalgic. Just still, because peace isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly on a morning like this, when you realize you've survived the story that almost destroyed you. Later that day, I took down the photo from the shelf. Not out of bitterness, but gratitude. Because every love, even the broken ones, teaches you something sacred. Hers taught me that love without truth is just pretending, and pretending always ends the same way, with silence. I placed the photo in a box, closed the lid, and smiled faintly. Not everything needs a happy ending. Some stories just need an honest one. As I walked outside, the air smelled of wet pavement and new beginnings. And for the first time in years, the world felt wide open. The past no longer hurt, it simply existed behind me, not inside me, and I thought to myself, sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to let go. Sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to let go.